Hey everyone, so today I want to talk to you guys about myths surrounding weight loss, and this is actually inspired because I was at my doctor's office, and I don't know if many of you have been to a integrative medicine doctor or any kind of holistic, oftentimes kind of practices like chiropractors, or I don't know, in my experience a lot of these doctors that kind of go between holistic and conventional medicine tend to have like a ton of weight loss and like Botox products also in their clinics, especially a big emphasis on weight loss. And I get it. It's because they need to make a living, and a lot of people going to them are searching for weight loss. So I'm seeing a new doctor. I really like her. Actually, tomorrow I have my follow-up appointment to discuss my lab work. She's super into ancestral health, all about intermittent fasting. She knows about keto. She actually knows really important people in the paleo and keto space. She personally knows Dr. Terry Walls. She's awesome. I'm really happy with her. However, I was waiting to get my blood work done, and I was in the little room by myself looking at all the little pamphlets, and they had this weight loss supplement pamphlet, and I was like, ugh, eye roll. What is this garbage? And I opened it, and I was really surprised that the information was not the conventional standard starve yourself, lose weight thing. Anyway, and while I do not in any way condone meal replacement, shakes and meal replacement protocols, at least if my doctor is selling that, she's at least selling one that's decent. And I'm not going to tell you the brand or talk about it because I'm not promoting a weight loss or meal replacement thing in any way. But what I want to talk about is the little pamphlet and this thing. So the pamphlet talks about myths behind weight loss. We've all been assaulted by many dietary and weight loss myths and untruths over the last half century. It's no wonder why diets fail 98% of the time. Based on the most cutting-edge scientific research, this integrated body composition management program dispels these myths and thereby results in marketed improvements in appearance, health, etc. What's really cool here is that they say body composition. I appreciate that because I do believe that number one reason why people fail in diets and weight loss is because who gives a shit how much you weigh? What you want to do is lose body fat and gain muscle. So you need to build muscle to burn fat, right? Because if you're just losing muscle mass, yeah, you're going to weigh less, but you're not going to burn more calories. And I talked about this in that last YouTube video of mine, that people who lost weight on a low carb diet increase their energy expenditure. And I think a lot of that has to do with because they're not losing as much muscle mass. And when you keep your muscle mass and you're losing body fat, you keep your energy expenditure, which means that over time you still get to eat more. And as you lose weight, you don't just have to keep restricting your calories. And that's important for the longevity of keeping your new body composition. Because a lot of times, people lose a ton of weight, but you're losing a ton of body muscle mass as well. And your body's also burning less calories. And then so the minute you get off your diet and you want to eat regular portions of food and not be hungry, guess what? You're going to gain the weight back. And of course, no one wants to live hungry all the time because that's stupid. So anyway, I appreciate that despite the fact that this is still selling a weird diet product, at least their information is kind of cool. So anyways, myth number one, being overweight increases my risk of developing metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and heart disease. It is only the increased fat in your body that leads to these diseases, not the weight per se. Many athletes are extremely healthy despite being obese based on height and weight labels. Many women, because of repetitive extreme dieting, have diseases in spite of being a normal weight. This is known as skinny fat, which means that the thin outside, fat inside. When you only lose fat and maintain muscle, your appearance improves much greater than if you just lose pounds. This is because you tend to primarily lose around your stomach. So what's interesting here is that I talk about this a lot too, and that goes back to you don't want to necessarily lose, if you go through BMI, what is it, those charts, the body mass index, right? So if you go your height, you go to the doctor and your doctor's like, well, you're 5'5" and you're 150 pounds, you're super obese, and you're like, but I'm a size 6. What? I think what happens there is obviously those charts are putting people into squares, and they're often so wrong. And even when you put in your height and weight in a lot of these online little algorithm things, that's what they're using to determine whether you're overweight or not. So it's just super inaccurate. The height to weight ratio thing takes into zero account muscle mass, which is, especially if you're super athletic, if you're active, your bone density, just so many other factors to determine health, like the amount of triglycerides, like, fat in your triglycerides, right? Which is what we want to, lose. So that's kind of cool that, okay, myth number two, if I eat less, I will lose more fat. And I was like, so lowering your daily calorie intake too much results in loss of muscle, which lowers your calorie burn rate, right? Your total energy expenditure, often permanently. And I've said this so many times, over restriction, it downregulates your metabolism. So literally your body will be like, oh, well, we only need this amount of food to function. So now anytime you eat more, you're going to gain weight. So that's why over restriction doesn't work. It also results in fatigue, hunger, and lowered immunity. Talk about rashes and inflammatory issues and women who've been over restricting and yo-yo dieting their whole life, developing autoimmune issues later in life. Yeah, that can happen. So really what you need to do is find a customized approach between your calorie, protein, and carb intake based on your measured body composition and your metabolic rate to ensure that you maintain muscle and lose body fat. I'm doing a no-fail physique program for weight training, and she offered to write me a program specific to my body type if I got a DEXA scan and send it to her. And I thought, like, that's so rad that this is Michelle at No Fail Physique. But I know it's hard to find that out, and even getting a DEXA scan can be a little expensive. They're like $100. But I think that one size fits all approach to macros and to calorie restriction and those little can be dangerous because you end up, maybe you're losing weight, but maybe it's muscle mass you're not maintaining. If you're hungry all the time, that's not a good sign. That's a sign that you're over restricting your calories. Number 3, diet should be based on the fact that weight loss is simply equals calories in minus calories out. Bro, the debate here is insane. And even in the real food space, there are some people which are still really into calories in, calories out, and some people that are like calories don't matter. And honestly, I don't know where I am. I feel like I understand the science in one side, but then I also feel like I know that there's so many minute details, like how you sleep, if you fidget, if you're active, if your job type, like your body composition, so calculating accurate calories, like calorie expenditure, is so difficult that I think that's why the calories in, calories out model has so many faults. So this misconception continues even in the minds of most doctors today, where the calories comes from protein, carbs, or fat is actually at least as important as total calories. Getting more protein leads to maintaining muscle and maintaining metabolic rate and keeps you from getting hungry. Carbs, particularly starchy foods like cereal, potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, corn, and beer, cause a rise in insulin, which makes you store fat, primarily in the belly area. So I do agree with that. Quality of calories matters much more than the amount. Like, you can eat 300 or 1,000 calories in donuts and you're absolutely going to be sick and gain weight. But you can eat 1,000 calories in broccoli and I'm pretty sure nothing bad will happen to you, except maybe get a little gassy, So that's really cool. And that's just, again, back to this crazy pamphlet having decent information. So number 4, I get enough protein in my diet. Studies show that to maintain muscle metabolic rate when dieting, you need about 2 times the recommended daily allowance of protein. It also says most people aren't getting enough protein, and of course, protein is time consuming or expensive or whatever. That part, they're just trying to explain why buying their shake is worth it, which obviously, as we know, real food is more important. Reasons why real food is more important: it's more bioavailable, drinking calories is not as satisfying, and all that jazz. So anyway, I am a fan of protein, even on keto. I know there's a lot of people say too much protein on keto, gluconeogenesis. And unless you have severe metabolic damage, I would say that there's a really good argument for protein, and even gluconeogenesis, where you the process, the glucagon that makes that happen. Higher protein intake with grains spikes insulin. And studies have shown in dogs, in mice, and in humans that protein intake in the low carb does not spike insulin at all, but actually increases ketone production. So there's been some really good studies on that. And there's a really good video on YouTube I watched, Dr. Burkham, I think. Anyway, I get hungry because my stomach is empty. So when you eat from the white food group, your pancreas pumps out too much insulin, and then that causes your blood sugar to drop too low, too quickly, which signals your hunger in your brain. Protein and fat, because they don't produce an insulin spike, they also don't cause insulin to overshoot. I also covered this in my last YouTube video talking about how that insulin drop after a blood sugar spike gets your central nervous system, sounds the alarm bells, which gets your adrenals to shoot out, to excrete cortisol, and then the cortisol is what gets your pancreas pumping out. Anyways, it's the whole thing, insulin or glucagon, depending on where you are. But so the insulin overshoot makes your blood sugar drop, then that creates the stressful situation for your body. Anyways, then of course there's boredom, stress, and a host of other reasons why people overeat. We actually, very few people, and I used to do this, and it wasn't until keto that I actually sat down for meals hungry for the first time in my life. Very few of us in this country wait long enough for our stomachs to be truly empty before we eat. It's the blood sugar roller coaster that we are on due to the white food in our diet that makes us hungry and tired and less able to make healthy food choices, which is why whole foods, real food is just so important. And this is stuff I talk about all the time, but what a great little, I think I'm actually going to write a blog post about this because the information is just so good, and seeing it there in black and white could really help people with their food choices. But it's great to see that, at least in some medical communities, the science behind sustainable, healthy weight loss is coming around, that it's not about over-restriction. It's not about starving yourself. It's about food quality. It's about blood sugar regulation. And maintaining lean muscle mass, or building lean muscle mass, right? And you need a surplus of calories to build muscle, and then you need you cannot build muscle without a surplus of calories. And I think that that's okay. People sometimes think I'm stalling, but if you're stalling, you could be building muscle mass, and that's a good thing. And then that, although you build the muscle mass and then you'll burn the fat later, I know in my journey I've had these ups and downs too, and but my body composition is what I'm focused on, not the number on the scale. So yeah, I sound like a broken record, but screw the scale. So anyways, like I said, a lot of good info on this stuff on my YouTube channel as well, and I will write a blog post for sure about this. Happy Sunday.